So let's go ahead and get started. Going over a couple things first. I can't put any music behind this, so it's going to be kind of dry. I'll do it as fast as I can, but you may want to maybe have some Spotify in the background or something. So the first, we'll make a few assumptions. I'm assuming that you're going to be using the mod list from the units. I'll also be under the assumption that you've reached out to one of us to get some of the compositions you'll need to get started. We have those compositions to make it easy for anyone to make a mission, and to try to have as little scripting as possible involved. So we will also be using a few mods that are not on this 13th Reborn base, which is generally you always use the base when you make a mission. Do not use the advanced, because the advanced has a lot more mods than the base, and so you could run into some mod compatibility issues. It's always best to use less mods than more if you have the option. I will name those mods as I come across them. Many of them are mostly quality of life and things like that, so you don't have to have them, but they do make your life a little easier. Again, reach out to one of us for those if you have any questions. So we'll go ahead and get started. So this is going to be a Thursday sort of mini-op. So the first thing that you want to do is make a storyboard. I make these comments here by right-clicking and then place comment and put it in the title. Give me 1 second. I stay outside, so I had my window open, but there's a dog barking in the background. And so you can make comments like this, and by putting stuff in the title, it shows up on your map. And this is kind of where I start, so I'll say, okay, so where do I want them to start, and where do I want all the objectives to be? And then I kind of plan it out beforehand just to kind of get the flow of the mission. So that's kind of the big start, is lay it out. That way you constrain yourself, because a lot of times the one pitfall that I see for most game masters and Zeus's is they try to do too much, or they just spend so much time in Eden adding things, and then all of a sudden you've done too much. You want to have a measured hand when you do this kind of stuff, and then you can come back in Zeus during the mission and add things as needed. That's why you're there as Zeus in the mission, to add things. So we're going to start here, and they'll be transported by that helicopter to this area. So you'll notice there's a lot of text. It's okay, it's not too bad. So they're first going to land here at LZ mission start, and once they do, we're going to have a heavy QRF. QRF in this case just means hostile forces reacting to what is happening. So these guys will push the helo, and they'll have to deal with that. I'll probably put some people coming out of these doors up top, and so they're going to be put in a rough spot where they have little to no cover, and they've got a heavy force moving in on them from the get-go. So they're going to need to advance onto these buildings and make it a CQB gunfight, or they can fall back to these rock formations here and then play it how they want. So I've kind of chosen this LZ because it gives them two ways to play it, and then they can do as they feel is best. Once they push through that, they'll continue to move to the first objective, which is going to be to rescue the aircrew. So I've put this helicopter in as just my thought process. So this helicopter is going to be downed. I've made it so that if you double click on it, it has almost no health, it has no fuel and no ammunition, but I have set it to invincible. And so what will happen is when I start the mission, this will fall, and then I can kind of drag it around in Zeus and bang it up, hopefully flip it on its side, and maybe put some fire modules around it, some smoke. I'll do all that in Zeus. It should take just a couple minutes, and I'll show you. And so we'll have a little wreckage here. It'll almost look like the helicopter came down and like tore this part of the building out when it crashed. I may put some smoke and some fire down in here. So we have 2 air crews currently in the 13th, so I'll have one of the air crews be the downed helo, and they'll basically spawn in here as the infill's happening, and they'll be defending waves of enemies coming in while the building's on fire, and it'll be the job of the rest of the unit to push in, regroup with that air crew, and see what's going on. That's kind of the story of the mission. So I'm going to have all the enemies in this area tasked with pushing the air crew when we start. All the people in this area will be tasked to push the air crew when we start. And here, and here. And so you can see, as well as these two. And so you can see as they're pushing through, they're going to be taking fire from a lot of different places. The air crew is going to be defending themselves for about 10 to 15 minutes from these different angles, and so they'll be coming into a pretty heavy firefight from all angles. The goal is to hopefully injure a couple of the air crewmen so that when the unit gets here, they can do medical and things like that. And then it'll become a small wave defense mission with fire inside the building. And though that should be pretty interesting. We'll have a lot of smoke here to obstruct their views. And so yeah, so that'll be kind of the first part, is land, take this area, push through under heavy fire, and then medical and a defense portion for objective 1. Once they've dealt with that defense portion, then they will push across the village to the second objective, which is here. And here we're going to have some wounded that have been taken to a religious site, and essentially these people are trying to help. I haven't determined if I'm going to have these be I haven't determined who's going to be wounded yet, if it's going to be our soldiers and then the civilians are helping them, or if I'm going to have some people on board. By the way, you'll notice this is an MI8. We're doing a very short 3 to 4 week campaign as Russia. 99%, yeah, K60, sorry. 99% of what we do is American forces, but for this 3-week stint, we're doing Russia. So, but you can see here I have everything labeled as far as, okay, so this is going to be the job of these AI. This is going to be a heavy QRF pushing in. They'll have a medium QRF, probably holding. And I go ahead and label everything, thinking through how I want it to play out. 2 reasons. One, if I come back to this mission at a later date, say we want to do this mission in 8 months from now, I can just change all the Russian assets out for American assets, and we can basically run the same mission. And I've got all these comments here to help me remember what I'm doing. It also is a way to help me restrain myself, so I'm not just like placing enemies absolutely everywhere at random. There is some logic to it. So for example, these buildings here are really big, so that's going to be a heavy QRF. These are like some cluster, so that'll be medium. But then over here it's like a little village area, so it'll be small, and it helps restrain myself, because again, the biggest thing I can tell you is, as a Zeus and as a game master, you want to have restraint. Don't overdo it and get everyone killed. That's like the biggest mistake you can make. You'll notice I've also labeled religious sites. They will not be allowed to attack religious sites. They'll actually have to get, and I'll talk with the team leads before, they'll have to get authority to move into this religious site. So they'll probably work their way up to here, and then all of a sudden it's a religious site, and they'll have to have like a very short, like 2-minute, minute and a half defense mission here, until they get authority to move on to that. So that should be interesting. They'll like be rushing all the way, go, 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 and then they'll hit this and be like, oh yeah, okay, so now we gotta wait. So it'll be a nice hurry up and wait thing. And the last part of the mission is to push into here. This is where the remainder of the air crew is, based on intel from Objective 2, which we'll put in, and then they'll land right here on this LZ for exfil. Oh, I forgot. we're going to have wounded here. And so if they need to move the wounded and get them out, they'll move to this exfil. And so you can see they're going to have to move through this close quarters area and get them there, which should be doable because these walls act as line of sight, blocks. But it'll be interesting because they'll be getting hit from a lot of different areas, so I think that'll make for a nice cinematic, especially because they'll be able to see the LZ, but it's just getting there with the wounded that's going to be hard. And then that segues nicely into the last mission. So that's currently what we're going for. So the next step is going to be to set up the starting area, and then we're going to set up all 3 objectives how we want them. And then from there, we'll put in the enemies in the densities that we want the enemies to be in. What I'm probably going to do is have all of the enemies that deal with Aircrew attacking the first objective. I'm going to have them be independent if I can. That way I can keep tabs on people's jobs. So the AI's job, anyone who is independent, their job is going to be to attack the Aircrew at the beginning, and then after that, all the Op 4, it's fair game. That way I just don't forget.
Independent being green 4, sorry.
Independent being green 4, yes. And so what I'll probably do is I'll drop down a group or a unit. Can you make them... Can you change their side? I actually don't remember how to change their side in Eden, if there is a way. If not, I can take a picture of it, like a screenshot, and then just look at it and kind of do it in Zeus. I think that would be the easiest thing to do. So, I think that'll be the easiest thing to do. So what I'll do is I'll put in all the Op 4, and then I'll take a picture of where all of these guys are, and then I'll change them to green 4, which is independent. They'll still act in every way the same. It just basically color codes it to make it easier on me, so that when I'm doing the mission I don't mess up and accidentally pull the wrong enemies that I wanted to. So like I'd take a picture of this, and then I'll load it up in Zeus, and I'll change all the sides. So but yes, that's kind of what we're going for. I like to lay my missions out beforehand like this, as I said. So we'll get started. We're going to do the start first, then the objective second, and then all of the filler stuff at the end. I'm just going to make sure let's make sure the recording software is getting everything. I don't want to do this for an hour and then realize that it is not working. Okay. That would be really bad. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is put in a respawn and take care of all of the boring stuff, if I can spell. Let's see, respawn. So we want respawn position, and we're going to put it down. And I'm going to put it down. Let's put it here. And so we're going to want name mission start, and infantry, we want it to be Op 4, because remember these are going to be Russians. So and then show to everyone, notification disabled. So what I'm going to do is they'll spawn in as Russians, as Op 4, our players will. And then right before the mission starts, I'll use the change side relations module in Zeus and change all of our guys to blue 4. And then everything's nice. It's easier to change the players than the AI, because there's 75 to 100 AI and there's only 8 players or 20 players or however many. So, yes.
Wouldn't it just be easier just to label players as blue 4? Just to keep the headache from... I don't think anybody will notice.
The issue with that... yeah, I could do that. So we have a Russian player base. here. Let's see. Find them. So we have both a Russian player base and a Blue 4 player base. And so what I was going to do is have them start as the Red 4 Russians, and then right before the mission begins, just use the module to change all of them to Blue 4. But it has to be an op for respawn position because they're red. Does that make sense? But I agree with you. If you wanted to, you could use a Blue 4 and then change them to yeah, and then you could change them if you wanted to. Zach and I talked, and he decided he wanted it done this way, so that's kind of how we're going to do that. But yeah, your ways, yeah, perfectly legitimate. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I just figured it'd be easier just to keep them as Blue 4.
Yeah. Yeah, we had that discussion. I don't think it's been completely decided. Worst case, that's what we can do. But I'm going to stick with this way for now because that's what was decided on beforehand. So now we're going to place down, by the way, I went to map, and then you can depress middle mouse button to move the camera around, and then press map again, M for map, to kind of fast travel around. So now we're going to add in all of the pre-op stuff. This will be given to you. If you want to make a mission, you express that to us. So the first thing is going to be a medical tent. It's already baked in. All you have to do is drop it, and it essentially comes with if anyone enters this trigger, then they get automatically healed. Oops. So what we're going to do is we're going to hide this back wall using hide under the modules, and that way we have some opening. We'll put that probably there. We have a lot of other modules that we can use. We won't be using them all for this, but we have, for example, we will need one of these helipads. This is again another composition we can give you. Any helicopters that come through these triggers will automatically get healed. We will need probably one, but I'm going to use two just to be safe. So I'm going to put one there, and I'll put another one back here just in case we need to do something with AI. It's more of a, worst case scenario, but it's nice to have. So we also have the shooting range for them to test their weapons safely. So we'll put that here. Oh, it looks like it's gonna. See if I can fix it. No. It's gonna be finicky, I think. It doesn't like the two H barriers stacked on top of each other. It acts kind of finicky sometimes. So these two buttons here, this button tells it whether or not to adhere to the terrain or just sink right through it. And then this button, if you have two objects stacked on top of one another, should it snap the two objects together like a Coke can on a table? Should it, it'll look at it and say, oh, you want the Coke can on the table, and then it'll snap to it. If you have it in the setting that I do with the arrows pointed out, it won't snap. Sometimes just playing with those two buttons can help a lot. Let me find the shooting range again. I just totally lost it. There it is. This should theoretically fix it. Let's see. Kind of. It's being a little buggy. But it's a pre-op shooting range, so I'm not too worried about it. I wonder why it's doing that. It's really weird. Well, I'm not going to spend too long fixing it. It'll be fun. So this is kind of a good learning thing. So this shooting range... Okay. I'll do one more try. I think I'm going to leave snapping on this time. Sometimes you just literally just play with the buttons, especially those two at the top, until you kind of get the end result you want. Last op that I made and I put the shooting range in, I had some issues, so it may just be the composition. Yeah, so we'll kind of leave it like that, and then come in and I'll turn on respect the map, and we'll kind of come in and try to fix some of this. So this is one thing that I can't stress enough. If you're making a mission to like upload to Steam and like tons and tons of people are going to play it, you definitely want to spend hours and hours making sure every little detail is right. But especially if you're making it for friends and it's a pre-op shooting range, like something that just, you know, only half of the people are going to see, and even then people are just there to shoot their guns for 5 minutes and leave before the ops even started, you don't want to spend a ton of time. I mean, I'm all about making missions that, you know, you can spend your time better elsewhere, is what I'm saying. Just be careful not to like waste a lot of your time. This is a more of a functional thing, so we just want to make it functional, basically. So that's probably good enough. Again, we're just trying to make it functional. We're not trying to spend 4 or 5 hours making a pre-op base that nobody's going to see, really. Just want to make sure that like rounds don't ricochet and kill somebody, or, you know, people from the base can't shoot other people from over here if they have a bad lapse of judgment, which happens, unfortunately. So, you know, good enough. Alright, cool. So nothing's floating now, for the most part. They'll come in here, and they'll be able to shoot targets, and, you know, good enough. That's one of the big suggestions I can make. Do not spend tons and tons of time in places that don't really end up mattering. We also have the arsenals, so we'll put these down. So you'll get them in this format. This is the Blue 4 arsenal. This is the last revision, just in case we need it for whatever reason. This one is unrestricted, just in case, and then we have our Russian one. So this is going to be a Russian mission. So we're going to delete these, and we're going to move this into here, because this is where they'll be getting their kits. And so now we will copy and paste a few of these in, and we're good to go. And I always like to put the restricted arsenal somewhere close enough by to where if somebody comes to me and like has a legitimate reason to use it, they can. But I can easily see in Zeus at a glance, you know, if I'm looking in Zeus like this and someone's over here, like they're obviously at a place they shouldn't be, because we don't want people getting access to the restricted or unrestricted, because it has some really broken stuff in there. So I think that's about all we're going to add for this one. It's pretty straightforward. We do have like a racetrack I could add if we wanted to. Probably just toss that in real quick. Racetrack. Probably just toss this in somewhere. It's very big though. I'm not going to worry too much about it. Yeah. So this terrain just really doesn't lend itself to this very well. We may just forgo it entirely. Yeah. So we do have that. But, you know, again, don't waste your time on stuff that people only do for 5 or 10 minutes before the mission. It's not worth it. So, we've made a really quick base, quick and easy, all good. People will grab their kits, they'll line up on this wall or something, play on their phones till they're ready. They'll get into the helo, and then this will be where the mission starts. We've got the medical tent in case someone accidentally gets hurt. I'll probably use Zeus to put in a teleport pole over here to take them to the shooting range where they can test out their guns. And then we kind of have it blocked off just for everybody's safety, and everything's good to go. So, making sure all these guys are touching the ground. I don't want any floating targets. And then we'll get started on the objectives. Okay, so we got that done. Nice and quick. So now we're going to set up the first objective, which is over here. So Zeus has a fire module, but Eden does not. So that will be something that'll have to happen in Zeus, which I'll show you towards the end. But essentially we'll use the fire module to have a lot of these places on fire. We'll use the Zeus smoke module to have like plumes of smoke rising through the building, making it pretty hard to see. As well as this helo will have like fire around it. May put an air crewman down to you know, in the fire, so he's like burning and stuff. So this is mostly going to be done via Zeus, just because it's all Zeus only modules, and the building's already there. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the. Okay, so let's look at the next mission. So again, love the Middle Eastern maps because they all come fully furnished, so you really don't have to do much to them. However, what we will want to do is have some sort of medical area set up, which will probably be in here, just to show like, hey, this is obviously a medical area. So we'll put some garbage on the ground. Show like, hey, we've been working for a while. Again, just trying to... You don't want to put too much stuff, but it is nice to, you know... So we'll have a medical box down over in the corner. And then maybe like an IDAP box in the corner. And let's see, I think it's an IV bag. Is that it? Let's see if we can find it. Looking for the... Okay, we may not have it. Oh. There it is, IV stand. So we'll put like an IV stand here. And then we'll put some blood down and we'll call it good. So we want new, medium. Get some blood on the ground. Copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. Maybe turn them a little bit so people don't like recognize that it's copy and pasted. And that should be good. So, there's your medical area. It doesn't have to be like tons of assets. And what we can do is we can highlight all of them, right click, attributes, and create simple object, as well as disable simulation. And we can also check simple object. So this basically tells it to freeze it in place and never move it under any circumstances. This tells it to stop any physics calculations on it, and it makes the server run a lot. It basically is a lot easier on the server. And then this one is another mod that we have. It does the same as the simple object, but it's redundancy. So it catches some things if they're missed. And so you'll see they turn gray with these red icons. And these objects are now invincible. They cannot be moved. They cannot be destroyed. They have no collision, but they're a lot easier on the server. And we'll do that with a lot of stuff just to keep the frames up. So, okay. So I think we're good here. For this, let's look. So, so we have this module here, interior fill for ZEI module, and you can place it down and you can say what you want, and then you can hit OK. Notice it says we need your help for a template. Most of the Middle Eastern buildings will not work with this mod because they're already fully furnished by the people that made it. However, say you're on Altus or something, you can use this. You can just say interior fill, put it on the building, choose military or civilian, and then hit OK, and it will auto-populate the building full of furniture and stuff. Really handy. There's also object fill. So, for example, if I put down a table, and we'll just pick this one. If I put down this table, and then I go to the ZEI mod, and then I go to object fill and I place it on the table, I can then select what type I want, and then I can select how full I want it, and it will auto-populate onto it. And notice it automatically makes them simple objects with the red around it, so that this won't take up a lot of server performance at all. So, really handy, keep that in mind. Keeps you from having to hand place stuff, which is never fun, because we want to make these missions as fast as possible while making them high quality. So, so for this one, we want to have a HVT building somewhere. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what is, so this is another mod we have. It's called Find Maps, Map Objects with Cursor or something like that. And so what you can do is say, I want to know what this building is. I can right click and then find objects in cursor, and it will tell me all of the objects that my cursor was hovering over. And then I can go through and look at them. So what I want to do is, okay, so this is land JBad house. So I want to try to use something from the same mod, or at least the same area. So we'll say land JBad house. Is it going to come up? Let's see if that comes up with anything. Yeah, so we want to use something from this mod to make our HVT building. And this is where the prisoners are going to be kept. So we want it to be nice, relatively. Okay, that looks decent. Yeah. So then they can, yeah. So then they'll come up through here. Yeah, this is a good HVT building. So we want to put this building, we'll put it like here ish. So I'm gonna go ahead and hide, and let's hide the building that it's covering, but it took out the wall. Yeah, that one's not gonna work. What about this one? Just kind of playing with it until I get it right. That looks good enough. Yeah. So there's your HVT building. Not too hard. Alright. Zach, is that you?
No, just me.
Hey Mike, how's it going?
Hello.
Okay, so we've got all three objectives laid in. It was really easy because all of the buildings are have furniture in them already. Normally you would have to use ZEI interior to fill all the buildings that you think people have a high chance of entering. So for example, these buildings over here I wouldn't have filled but the ones by the objective and maybe the ones across the street I would have. And you have to use it sparingly because you can easily overload the server. However, with most Middle Eastern maps and that use JBAD, it's actually really nice. It makes mission making so much easier because you don't have to fill in any buildings. You just kind of put in the HVT buildings, things like that. So, alright, so we're about ready to put in the AI. So we are using the 2021 OP4 for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these guys. So these guys right here, just so you know, we do not want to use because they have an RPG and only an RPG, which means they will use the only weapon they have and just fire RPGs as fast as possible at whatever they're aiming at. So I'm going to delete him, and you'll notice I'm kind of parsing through these and vetting them, and these will be the ones that I use throughout the rest of the mission. See, this one has 2, man. So this will probably be a good patrol. This guy has a grenade launcher. That's kind of scary. Which one of you has a... Yeah, he has a grenade launcher. Okay. And now we need kind of a... Okay, so this is another sentry, so I'll put you with the sentry guys. Do you have anything? You've got 2 LMGs. Okay, that's... Man, they really made these guys strong. Okay, AK. Okay, so I like these. This guy... Yeah, he's got 1 AK, 1 M4, so that's like a lot of variety. And then mechanized infantry. Nah. We can put in we can do this, and then we can take out the infantry portion, which will not be like that. This thing is full, correct? Almost. Cool. So what I'm doing here is I'm intentionally restricting myself to what I can use before I start putting in units. And this is important because what a lot of people will do, especially newer Zeuses, will basically, when you do the AI, you just kind of throw everything in, but you don't actually beforehand take any measures to limit yourself. By picking what I want to use before I lay any units in at all, I'm limiting myself and therefore making it a little more realistic as far as like the quantities and the proportions. So I think they'd probably have several of these. Maybe 2 of these. We'll just put 1 piece of armor in. And do you have any... Okay, so these are their like... Yeah, these are like the special forces guys. Okay. So we'll have these guys protecting the last objective. So the next question that we need to decide once we have this in. So these are the units I'm going to use throughout the mission. So I'm going to use these as my 3-man, these as my sentries, this is my 4-man, and these are my special forces. And then we have our vehicles that we're going to use throughout the op. That way, again, we're not putting in everything haphazardly and not thinking about the proportions of what we're doing. So I think I'm going to have 1 more technical because I think a lot of people are going to attend this mission. And get rid of the scary guy. Okay, so this is what I'm going to work with. I like how everything looks so far. So we'll start adding stuff in. So for the aircrew, I want them to be a large number of... I want it to be a consistent trickle of the hostiles. So everywhere I see a node, I'm going to put 6 people. There. Yeah. So I basically just put those people in where I saw these enemies push aircrew. And so what I'm going to do when we load in is I'll change all these guys to green 4 just so I can distinguish what's job is what's, as we've already discussed. And then I will ungarrison each one and send them in one at a time in a steady flow as things go. That way they all just bum rush. You can set up lambs in the modules tab here. You can set it up beforehand. In my opinion, it's not worth it because if you miss one module, it will crash the whole, like your mission won't load and it won't tell you why. You'll just have to manually go back through every single lambs module and figure out which one you messed up on. And it takes me about 5 to 10 minutes to do all the AI beforehand. So for me, it's just not worth it. But if you have questions about how to do lambs in Eden and actually have everything done for you when you start the mission, I can show you. Just be aware that like your mission could have the chance of just not working, and you will have no way of knowing what you did wrong. So now we're going to take the high enemy density people, and I'm going to put one for each big building. You spawn on the roof. Make sure all these guys are on the ground. Good, like that. So notice that I'm limiting myself to... Ooh, I missed one. Notice how I'm limiting myself. So, you know, you don't want to... You want to have some sort of methodology behind it. So this is a heavy QRF point, so I said, okay, for every building, I'm going to put these in. Normally, I don't lay any AI in after mission start. If I see someone stacking up on a building doing something cinematic, I'll be like, oh, cool, yeah, I'll put someone in there. But normally, once the mission starts, I don't put any AI in. I just try to intuitively put AI in as I see that it needs to be, and then I just kind of let things play out as they need to. So this is a medium QRF, so I'm going to put these units in. These are different than the ones for the heavy. For those I put... How many? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 per building. This will be 3 per building. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm just going to put in 3 here. I think that's good. We got a medium, so I'll just follow the same mentality. So 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. Good. And then good. Small. So we'll call that 1, 2, with some trailing back here for longer routes. So these will be the guys that kind of are on foot walking, and what I'll do is at some point, probably when they hit objective 2, I'll just send these guys from far away to walk, and they'll get there eventually. Probably when they're like taking objective 3, they'll kind of start coming in, and it's mostly as like a timed nuisance thing. And like I said, I don't try to do everything perfectly. It's just how it happens, it happens. So I will put the majority of our QRF in here, coming up the road, and I'll probably do it in both ways. Let's see. Where would I put them? We'll put these in here. We're off to the side. That way, that's how that'll go. And you, the big boy, will be actually in here. Yeah, something like that. That'll give him a good scare. With these two peppered in somewhat at random, so I'll put one by the heavy and then one about, yeah, there you go. So now they're definitely going to come across those at some point in time. Cool. Alright, so do we have everything filled in? Exfil. This is a big gap right here. I'll just put a little small people there. I'm looking for big gaps where I'm missing, like it's just complete dead zones, just kind of filling space. Actually, since I'm filling space, I should not be using the people I used for the medium. I should be using sentries, but I want them to be scary. So let's pull these guys. These guys, good. So now I'm just kind of filling. I don't want there to be any quiet areas. Just like one or two, just so that they always have something to shoot at. Even if it's like one person. At least there's like something there. It's not just like 5 or 6 buildings in a row with just nothing. It's basically cannon fodder to keep people's attention. So this looks good. So, oh yeah, we gotta put that in, and then the special forces. We'll do the special forces first. So I want this compound right here to be really, really hard on them. This is kind of the place where they're supposed to stall out. And so we're going to put a lot of special forces guys in and around it, as well as a bunch of like 1s and 2s. So essentially, basically, as they pushed forward, a lot of the 1s and 2s that were here fell back. And now they are here. And we'll place some of them inside. Oops. Place some of them inside. We'll put half of the Special Forces team outside the perimeter, half of them inside the perimeter. And yeah, I want this to be a really hard take. Like, I'm hoping half the unit dies or at least goes unconscious trying to take this. That's the goal. And then medical, then the PJs come in and assist with medical, and then the mission ends. And then they'll have these guys kind of peppering them throughout the mission. They're just 1s, 2s, and 3s. So it shouldn't be like an overwhelming force or anything. It'll just be an inconvenience. So these guys are just going to be a part of the initial heavy QRF. Actually, I don't want the Special Forces guys. These Special Forces guys are going to be a little too much. So I'm just going to take these leftovers that I used for everything else, and we'll do the same mentality. So we'll say, for that type of building, it gets that many people. For these, I said it gets a pair each. And so you can see I kind of limit myself to the methodology, right? So, okay, so this type of building gets 2 people, this type of building gets 4, and that's kind of how I limit myself so I don't put too many in. And then we'll put 3 in just for good measure. Oh, we actually don't have anyone in this dead zone, so I'll put these here. Alright, so now we need to check the number. So we've got, what is this? By the way, to snap, you click and then hit F, and it will snap to where you can see it. Like that. Okay, so let's see what we got. So I'm looking for a 4 or 5 to 1 ratio, and I'm expecting about 20 people, 15 to 20 people to come. So I need about 90 op4. So we've got, let's see, 3, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 18. It's about like 24, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 30, we'll call that about 35, call that about 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100, 105, about 110, 115, 120, 125, 130, 135, 145, 150,
Hey, so did you know that the Battlefield Portal editor is already live?
Nice. So we're about double what I was wanting. So I'm going to come in and kind of trim this just a hair. I'm going to delete one group per section of segments of buildings. And then, no, I actually didn't, by the way. Zach?
Yeah.
I may look into that. So basically, we went over by probably about 30%. So I'm going to go in and just delete one group of hostiles per large engagement. And that should... It's still going to be a really hard mission because there's a lot of Op4. But it should be a little more doable. So that was a bit of thinning. We'll call that good. Yeah, that's probably fine. Because these guys here are probably just going to go running off into Never Never Land anyways. So, yeah, that's probably a good balance. And if I wanted to, I could count it up again and get the ratio. But you generally want to know what your ratio is of AI to players. 3 to 1 is a light mission. 4 to 1 is like medium. 5 to 1's heavy. 6 to 1 is like... it can be really chaotic. I know like getting only 6 kills in an ARMA mission seems like low, but trust me, you'll just if you do any more, you'll just die over and over again. So, and then we need to put the Aircrew in. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let's do pilot from Russia. And I'm going to make them bright blue just so that people obviously know that they are... Oh yeah, they should probably not be armed. And I can take that away from him in just a second. So the way you edit the loadouts is right click on them and then edit loadouts, Ace Arsenal. And then you can do whatever changes you want. And then make sure you hit apply at the bottom. That's the one difference from what you're probably used to. Attributes. You'll notice we didn't do a lot of scripting in this. It's because all of the scripting is done in those modules that I showed you. I don't know what I'm doing. In those modules that I showed you. Now we do have some custom scripting that I did not show here, but the majority of it we did show. So yep, I think this is a good mission. It's fairly interesting because we've got them landing, then it's an attack mission, a defense mission, then they have to do medical, it's an attack mission, it's a defense mission, and then it's a all-out attack mission with a hostage rescue at the end, followed by the LZ coming down, and then more medical for the inevitable mass cast that's going to happen, because that looks pretty nasty. They'll also have to take wounded from here and escort, so we'll have a bit of an escort section too. So attack, defend, escort, attack, hostage rescue, and then mass cast, and then exfil. So yeah, I think that's a lot of diversity in one op. It's pretty straightforward, good old shoot 'em up op, but it has some interesting characteristics. So hopefully you were able to take something away from how the logic behind how I place the AI and like how to limit yourself and the flow, using the comments to kind of guide your way through. You'll notice most of the mission was done at the beginning when I had the comments in. And then it's just a matter of doing what your comments say, because you think it all out beforehand. But yeah, just let me know if you have any questions. I'll probably be recording the Zeus portion of this, and then uploading that as well, so you can kind of see how it all plays out, as well as the Zeus setup and everything with that. So that'll be interesting as well. But this is just kind of an introductory starting mission, so hope you guys learned something. So, all right, take care.